Hi there, I'm Gerry Washburn, and I'm really pleased to be able to share this book with you. I love reading books, and one of the things I really like about books is books always have a story behind them, not just the story in the pages, but the story in them. The book I'm going to be reading is Good Times on Grandfather Mountain. This book's really special to me because my father had this book dedicated to him, and at least that's the family story. And he was a very good artist, and he had a lot of things that he did where he was sharing sculptures that he did and those kind of things. So this book is about someone that can find the good in everything. So let's enjoy Good Times on Grandfather Mountain. Old Washburn always looked at the bright side of life on Grandfather Mountain. He never worried and he never complained. As long as I have a sharp pocket knife, I can whittle my way out of any trouble, he said. And he was a fine whittler. He could make a fiddle out of an old log or a spider out of a stick of wood. He was that good. When others grouched at the hot sun or griped about too much rain, Washburn sat on his porch and carved spinning tops, walking sticks, and dancing clowns. Close by were his cow, Blanche, Wisconsin, his spotted pig, Powder Puff, his chickens, the Banties and the Leghorns, and his garden. On one spring day, Blanche, Wisconsin jumped the fence and went off down the road, and Washburn couldn't find her. I guess she got an itch to travel, he said. Anyway, her milk never did make good cheese. He fed the Banties and the Leghorns and Powder Puff, the spotted pig, and he weeded the beans and swept the floors of his cabin. He whittled smooth the top of the old wooden pail and turned it over to make a milk bucket drum. A good drum is better than an empty pail, he said. It wasn't long before Powder Puff, in a burst of rooting and digging, pushed her way under the fence and trotted down the road. Washburn looked in the mud holes and cornfields. He asked his neighbors, but he couldn't find a track or a trace. Well, it will be nice to have no pig rooting up my radishes and my sweetest lettuces, he said. He fed the Banties and the Leghorns. He hoed the corn and washed his dishes. He whittled drumsticks out of a fence post in the pig yard. One early morning, the Banties and the Leghorns spread their wings into a gust of wind, flapped over the fence, and scrambled off across the field. Well, anybody would get tired of scratching around in the dirt all day and sitting on eggs, said Washburn. The chickens were not by the frog pond, under his neighbor's apple tree, or in the back pasture. At least I won't be waked up every morning by squabbling hens, he said to himself. I can carve rhythm clackers and floor pounders out of the chicken coop door. One hot summer afternoon, the grasshoppers came and ate his beans. Well, it will be nice not to wear out my back picking beans, said the old man. He swept the floors, washed his socks, and whittled the bean poles into tub thumpers. The next week, a large family of raccoons snuck into his corn patch and ate every ear of corn. Old Washburn did love sweet corn. Still, he could see the bright side. I have a fine stack of corn cobs, he said, and he decided to make corn cob whistles. A few days later, a fierce mountain storm came through and blew his cabin down. I've slept under the stars before, Washburn said. He poked around for a while and then sat down on a broken chair. There's some pretty good wood in this pile, with no cow to milk, no pig to feed, no eggs to find, no beans to pick, no corn to hoe, and no roof to fix. I'll have extra time. I'll whittle and glue and make myself a fancy fiddle." He did just that, and when it was finished, Washburn fiddled old-time songs about losing and finding, quick little jigs about greedy grasshoppers and silly chickens, and slow songs about watchful stars. Washburn's neighbors heard the music and came running. They brought hammers and tubs, harmonicas and musical saws. They used Washburn's corncob whistles, floor pounders, clackers, tub thrumpers, drumsticks, and milk bucket drum. Washburn and his neighbors danced and laughed and carpentered on the cabin. They romped and stomped and played the music they had learned on Grandfather Mountain. Blanche, Wisconsin, heard the music and headed back toward Washburn's sweet clover. Powder Puff, the spotted pig, heard the music from the valley and trotted toward the path. The Banties and Leghorns heard the music and hustled back to their old chicken yard with its mountain crickets and leafhoppers. The neighbors worked and danced until their shoes fell off, and they went home singing. The next morning, Washburn sat on the porch of his fixed-up home. He looked out at Grandfather Mountain, his cow Blanche, Wisconsin, his spotted pig Powder Puff, the Banties and the Leghorns, and his new fiddle hanging on the wall. He thought of the music, the dancing, and the laughter. He smiled and hummed a little tune. Then he pulled out his pocket knife and began to whittle. Old Washburn, was a fine whittler. He could whittle a spider out of a stick of wood or a party out of a blown down cabin. He was that good.